Get ready with me while I tell you a horror story that happened to me out in the Appalachian Mountains. Before I get deep into this, my first get ready with me was about how I got all my facial scars, and I'm letting you know that because this is gonna look funny. But okay, let's get into it. So it started off with me, my sister, and a bunch of our friends, and we went camping in the Appalachian Mountains. As I've said in other videos, we never used a campground, just out in the middle of the woods. We just got done setting up our camp, and it was right when we started to get the campfire going. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that the Appalachian Mountain is full of a whole bunch of folklore and a whole bunch of real stories also. Well, this one, my friend, is a real story. We're all sitting at the campfire, drinking some beer, and we start to hear what it sounds like. Footsteps completely just running around our camp. We all stand up and we start saying, hello, hello, is anybody there? Obviously, we didn't get any responses. So we grab a flashlight and we decided to take a walk in the woods in the middle of the night. As we're walking deep into the woods, the creepy thing is we started to hear these footsteps and like these voices almost as we're going deeper into the woods, but it sounded like these voices were going deeper into the woods themselves. It's so hard to do both of this at the same time. At that point, we all kind of realized like, okay, something really weird is going on because the voices started to like go deeper and deeper into the woods, almost like it was disappearing the deeper we went into the woods. So it almost kind of seemed like we were chasing something that wasn't really there. Well, it wasn't long before we all kind of decided like we were getting bored of this. So we decided to turn around and walk back towards our camp. Well, as we are walking back towards our campsite, we all notice that we hear footsteps behind us, literally like they were running up behind us. This is where this gets creepier. At that point, we were all literally so spooked that we booked it as fast as we could back to our campsite. Once we got back, we all decided to settle down at the campsite. We're all talking amongst ourselves like, what the heck was that? Obviously, at this point, we were all very spooked. But once we all decided to like settle down a bit and try to relax, we thought it was over, but it wasn't. We start hearing these noises again, going around our campsite, literally like somebody was walking around our campsite. And of course, as usual, we started hearing these creepy voices. It wasn't your average voices. It was like literally like someone or something was giggling out there in the woods, just giggling out by our campsite. At this point, we are all freaking out, like what the hell is that? Because it didn't sound human. That was the creepiest part. If anything, it sounded almost like demon-like, or just something that was not of this world. Another one of those experiences that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and none of us got a drop of sleep that night. And then the next morning happened. We waited for the sun to come up, and we literally take a walk, my hair is on shit, and take a walk around our campsite to where we see surrounding our campsite, literally in a circle, there was a track of something that was literally like circling our campsite, and it was obviously like something was being dragged in the leaves around our campsite. But we didn't hear that part. We only ever heard the footsteps, but these were obvious drag marks, like something was being dragged in a circle around our campsite. Whatever it was a circle that either had a plan to trap us in or something for it to stay out. I don't know, but y'all tell me what you think down in the comments, and let me know if you have any scary stories. They don't have to be from the Appalachia, but I would love to read them. Follow for more.
One of the scariest stories to happen to me while riding the back roads of Appalachia. This was a story of when I was about 16 years old in a place called Jackson County, Tennessee, with my two cousins, Danny and Cody. So we were, teenagers, 16, 17 years old, and we were just out looking for trouble, looking for something to do in a small town that didn't have much of anything really. So we decided we were going to drive the back roads that night, steal some road signs, do a little, beer drinking while we were driving around, just in general, looking for something to get into. That's when my cousin Danny came up with a great idea to go knock on the witch's house. Now, the witch's house in Jackson County, Tennessee, when I was younger, was this old lady that lived next to an area called the Dirt Cave, and that's a time for a whole other video. But this road by the Dirt Cave was one of those gravel roads out in the middle of nowhere that you had to take 3 other middle of nowhere roads to even get to. No street lights, no cell phone service. We're talking dark back roads of the Appalachian Hills, okay? This old house, I'm not even really sure if it had electricity or not. Everybody knew about the witch's house. It was on a dead-end road, and there was no reason to go down that road unless you lived there or you're going to the Dirt Cave, which is a pretty popular hangout spot. Now, This was pretty late at night. It was getting past, 11, midnight, somewhere in that range. I remember pretty well. It was just a Friday night. We were some dumb kids, and he dared me, or Cody, to go knock on the witch's house. And I looked up to Danny. He was a little bit older than me, so I couldn't back down. I had to go knock on this lady's door. Now, the witch that was out there pretty much kept to herself. She would go into town periodically when she needed supplies, so people caught glimpses of her. But she would literally have these rituals with like a giant cauldron, just like you'd imagine from the old stories and cartoons, out in her front yard. And she would have these massive bonfires. And she had like a little bit of a cult following around the town, where sometimes 8 to 10 of these people would go out there and they'd do these chants. And I mean, they would sacrifice chickens, the whole 9 yards. This isn't just speculation. People would go out there all the time and try to catch them doing stuff. Or they'd photograph them from the woods, or, from the road. And super creepy. And everybody would say that she would dispose of all the evidence and all the bodies into the dirt cave, which we'll get into that another time. I'm going, I can't chicken out now. We're pulling up to this witch's house, and my cousin has turned off the lights when we were a little back, just using the moonlight to kind of navigate this long driveway she had. And we see this rickety shack of a house, if you can really even call it that. And I'm trying to open the door to we were in a Jeep, and I'm trying to open the door as quietly as I can and just close it real gently so she doesn't hear me. Because, I mean, all nonsense of witches and stuff aside, we're out in the middle of Appalachia. I mean, people will fire upon you for nothing if you're on their property, especially in the dark like this. So I'm thinking, if she's not a witch, she might still, blast me. If she is a witch, she could hex me or curse me or do any numbers of things, And I'm creeping up through this yard, and I'm just going as slow as I can, just trying to be real quiet, real still. I'm looking for any signs of movement or animals that she might have. And she had this wooden porch, and it had these stairs on it. And I remember I touched that first step, and it made the loudest creak it could have possibly made. It just, on that first step. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I try to do the other 2 steps like really fast and light and be quiet with it, and that made so much more noise. And I'm sure it's just because it was dead quiet, my adrenaline was going, but I mean, it sounded like thunder, just boom, boom on these steps. And I'm just like, I just freeze. I remember standing there looking at this door, and I'm just like expecting to hear any movement. I'm listening from any movement in the house. Like, did she hear me? Is she moving? This house is not that big, I thought I heard a little something, but I'm thinking it's just the steps settling underneath me, the wooden porch settling underneath me. So I creep up to that door. And I was going to knock on it real hard so Danny and Cody could hear that I knocked on it. And then I was going to just haul ass back to the Jeep. That was the plan. That was how it was supposed to go. What happened next was one of the most frightening things that ever happened in my life. I go to hit that door, and I go, boom, boom. And on that second boom, the door just flies open. And not like somebody pulled it open. Like it was just an old rickety door, and my thudding on it, it just knocked the door open. And when that door comes open, probably 6 to 8 feet in front of me is this old woman, eyes big as saucers, mouth wide open, and she's butt naked. Just a, fatter old lady, just butt naked, head to toe. You see it all. The moonlight just illuminated her. There was no lights in that house, and she was pale as a ghost. And I mean, she's just going, grandma knockers and all. And I just freeze. And about the time I'm about to turn and run, just as loud as she can for, I don't know, it felt like a long time. They say when adrenaline's going, it seems like a small second is like a long time. This seemed like a long time, and I truly think it was. I don't know, but it was like I was just frozen. I didn't say anything. I didn't scream. I could literally feel my knees about to give out. It felt like everything was leaving me. And for a split second in my head, I'm thinking, she's like stealing my soul somehow. Like she's doing something to me, because I've never felt that way in my entire life. Still to this day, I've never felt that way. I've never felt that kind of terror and fear and regret and sorrow and just all at once, just all these emotions. And the next thing I know, I'm thinking Danny, Cody, somebody help me. Somebody get me. And I literally thought that somebody shoved me, and it was my cousins pulling me and taking me to the Jeep, because they heard her screaming. So she was at least screaming for long enough for them to get out of the Jeep and come get me, which had to have been, like I said, 20 to 30 feet. And I remember the whole time they're pulling me back, I'm still looking at this lady, just getting further away from her. The door's still wide open, and she's just still, just screaming. I mean, just this murderous scream. And that was it. I kept, for weeks, I couldn't eat real good. I couldn't sleep real good. I just kept thinking, like, she's hexed me. She's done something to me. Like, my life is going to be different. Now, older, looking back on it, I think I just terrorized and kind of broke and entered on an old lady. And I think I just terrorized this woman and scared the living daylights out of her as a young, dumb kid that just, I know that she had to have known that she was known as the town witch. I mean, because they did rituals in the yard. And I wasn't trying to do anything malicious. It was just, I guess I was, but I guess I'm the bad guy in that story. She probably tells all the occult members that I came out there and tried to, like, kidnap her, do something crazy to her. I don't know. It was just a terrifying time for everybody. And Grandma, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I know you love Danny, and Danny's been your favorite grandchild. I'm just going to go ahead and not throw him under the bus. He wasn't drinking. Me and Cody's were drinking. We were the bad influence on Danny. Please don't be mad at Danny. You've always loved him more than us. We know that. I hope you continue to love him more than us, because Danny's a pretty good dude. Now, if you liked this story, it was a goofy, funny story. It was kind of creepy as well, but it was 100% true. If I ever tell you guys that the story happened to me, it is the truth, okay? So if you want to go follow our podcast and watch some other scary stories that aren't true or more of my true tales, it's called Matt from Nomads, and you can follow it on Spotify and Apple Podcast, okay? Matt from Nomads, Spotify, Apple Podcast.
These stories out of the Appalachian Mountains are getting freaking nuts. This experience happened to one of my followers. He doesn't want me to use his first name, but we're going to refer to him and his family as the Chandler family. This story takes place when he was 13 years old, and he says that he and his family decided to go and stay at a cabin on the top of a mountain in North Carolina around Christmas time. They were coming from Florida, and it took them about 12 hours to get there. And when they arrived, they dropped all their things off at the cabin, but they were pretty hungry. So they headed to an Italian restaurant in a small little town about 30 minutes away from the cabin. So they get there. It takes a little while longer than they were expecting for their food to come. And at one point, his mother went outside to smoke a cigarette, and she noticed it started to snow, and they were not prepared for this at all. So they quickly finished up and headed out the door. They all jumped in the car, father in the driver's seat, and they all headed up the mountain. He said it was snowing pretty hard and it was very slippery. They didn't see any other vehicles up there for a while. And then all of a sudden, a snow truck came out of nowhere, and they had to swerve around it. And they ended up spinning out of control. They ended up stopping right up at the edge of a drop-off. So they all collect themselves, and the dad kind of drives the car away from the edge and then keeps on pushing up the mountain. And then it happened. An 8-foot creature came lunging out right in front of them, and they made impact. They hit this thing. So the mother jumps right out of the car and goes to see what exactly they hit. She goes around and she makes the loudest screech they've ever heard, and she flies back around, jumps into the car, and it's just like, go, 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 get out of here. And she wouldn't say what she saw at first. So they're driving back down the mountain now, and the brother turns around and looks out of the rear window, and he sees it. He describes this creature as being very long, likely around 8 feet tall, with unusually smooth gray skin. It had blood red eyes and a large psychopathic smile across its face. So they drive all the way down and get to the nearest gas station, and nobody says a word the whole drive. They are all just in shock. Just when things couldn't get any worse, their car breaks down. The father says, we're going to have to leave the car here and deal with it in the morning. And he says, we are going to walk over to that hotel. And after a 30-minute walk in the snow, they get to this hotel, and they get 2 rooms for the night. 1 room for him and his brother, and another room for the parents. So they all get showered and comfortable, and he's talking to his mother now, and he's inquiring about what she actually saw. And then he shares with her what he saw. She said that when she walked around the car, she heard her son's voice. He was saying, "Mom, help me, come here." And she looks in that direction, and she just sees this thing towering over her. She sees its massive, menacing smile that had teeth that looked almost human-like, but obviously it's not human. And it's big red eyes looking down at her. And that's the moment that she screamed and ran and got back into the car. So satisfied with that answer, he decides that he's gonna get some sleep. But despite their best efforts, he said, I don't think any of us got very much sleep. So the next day, he and his brother decide they're gonna walk back to the car to get a few things. And this just keeps getting crazier. So they get to the car and they noticed that in what looks like dried, B-L-O-O-D, are the words, I can still see you. So they quick snap a picture of it and they fly back to the hotel, wake their father up, and they show him. And he jumps up, gets dressed, and he goes back over to the car. So he gets there, he sees it, and he opens the door, and he is hit with this horrendous stench. He says, we'll deal with it later. They walked to the nearby car rental place, got a rental car, went back to the car quick, and noticed that B-L-O-O-D was now gone. And he opens the door and now that smell is gone. So they decided that they're gonna just press on, go back to the cabin and grab their thing. By the time they made it back up to the cabin, it was around 7 p.m. It was starting to get dark, so the dad decided to make the decision that they were just gonna stay in the cabin for one night and then head out the next day. Knowing that they were in the Appalachian Mountains, he thought this is a really bad idea. He was into the paranormal and he knew about the tales and what they say surrounding Appalachia, even about the rules. And he was kind of protesting a little bit, and you could tell his mother by the pale look on her face was on his side, but the brother was kind of like, it's gonna be fine. And they were back and forth about it. And he finally opens the curtains and says, see, there's nothing to be afraid of. And then all of a sudden, there starts a pounding on the window. This pounding is getting louder and louder on the glass, and at first they rush over to close the window. But unfortunately, now the glass has shattered. So they scatter, and he and his brother hide under one bed, and the mother goes and hides under another, and the father is standing his ground. This menacing, psychotically smiling, gray, slimy, tall creature starts to crawl through the window of the cabin. So the father grabs his gun and he takes a shot at it. And he goes on to unload a full clip in this thing. And he said it didn't seem to hurt it at all, but it did end up scaring it back out of the window. And they knew they needed to get out of there, but they were too scared to leave now that it's dark. So they all stayed up all night watching that freaking window. They waited until sunlight. They packed all their things up, put it in the car, and they headed home, and they drove the 12 hours home, only stopping for gas and fast food. You know, this sounds a lot like a story I told a couple weeks ago. Similar description of the creature banging on the glass until it broke, jumping through the window. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I am sure my follower will be checking them out. If you have your own creepy Appalachia story, I need to hear it. And if you are new here, you gotta follow for more creepy story time.
Haunted Appalachian Dollar General, and I have video proof. I live in Eastern Kentucky, and I have a lot of true scary stories that have happened to me personally, and I would like to share them with you. But here's the thing, this is a new account, so if you don't care, could you give me a follow? Also, this is a series, Haunted Appalachian Dollar General Video Evidence Part 2. So, the first video I showed you guys, the doors slamming wide open. Nobody was there. It was just the manager. And in both case scenarios, I'm pretty sure it's just the manager and maybe a few workers there. That door from the last video was locked. And you would have to very forcibly push the doors open if you wanted them open. And we seen the doors get blown wide open off the hinges, and that was insane, right? Well, this video is from the exact same Dollar General, okay? Me personally, I think where they're starting to put Dollar Generals literally all over the place, if you know, you know. I think that this land probably used to be owned by somebody, and then they passed away there, and the house probably, you know, got bulldozed down over time, and then voila, there's a Dollar General there. So I'd imagine that they're pissed. So my niece was the one that sent me this, and it's her boss's videos, okay? And the boss clipped it and sent it to Brooke, okay? So I have full permission to have this. This is nowhere else on the internet, okay? This is just on my channel. Brooke was telling me that that ghost is very mischievous, and he likes to, like, knock things off the shelves, or she. I feel like it's a guy, though. I don't know why. But he likes to knock things off the shelves, and, like, when you're there alone, you feel like something's watching you the whole entire time, and, like, you know, just different things are weird and not right there. You get a weird vibe when you go in there. Well, in this video that I'm about to show you, we're going to watch an orb turn into a figure, and we're going to watch it just walk down the aisle. And I think it's the creepiest thing ever. Okay, guys, watch. See the orb? So what do you think that was? Do you think it was an owner? Somebody pissed off that a Dollar General is there? I wonder.
Back to After Midnight Stories, where we talk about things that are creepy. We also talk about things that no one else would believe. But we believe you. I hope you're all tucked into bed, because after this one, you may not want to get out. I broke an Appalachian rule that I was told when I was a kid. If you grow up around here, you learn certain rules. Don't whistle at night. Don't answer something that calls your name from in the woods. And if you hear someone you love outside your window after dark, do not look. My grandmother used to say that last one like it wasn't a superstition, like it was a seatbelt. You look, she'd say, and it knows you can see it. I always thought she meant coyotes or bears, I don't know. It was 1:47 a.m. when I heard my mom's voice outside my bedroom window, soft, calm. Hey baby. My stomach dropped immediately. My mom lives 40 minutes away. I checked my phone and no missed calls and no texts. Then it came again, closer to the glass this time. Open the window. Same voice, same tone, but something about it felt flattened, like someone doing an impression. I stayed still, didn't answer. That's another rule. Then it said something only she would know, a nickname that she hadn't used since I was 10. Come on, just look at me. I told myself it was stress, lack of sleep, auditory hallucinations, anything but what my grandmother meant. The voice shifted slightly. Why won't you look at me? Still soft. Still patient. That made it worse. Then it said, you always used to look for monsters under the bed. A pause. There aren't any under there. Something scraped lightly against the siding. Right beneath my window. I broke the rule. I looked. She was standing on the edge of the yard just past the tree line, wearing my mom's face. Wrong. Too tall. Shoulders too narrow, arms hanging just a little too long, her head tilted slightly like it wasn't used to sitting on that neck. The face was almost perfect. Almost. The smile stretched too far back, and her eyes weren't focused on me. They were fixed on the reflection in the glass, watching herself, adjusting. When her eyes finally met, her expression changed instantly. Not confused, not angry, delighted. Her mouth opened wider than it should have, and she started laughing. High, sharp wrong and said, "I got you," in a shrill voice. Then she stepped backward. No turning, no blinking, just sliding into the trees, still smiling. I don't remember grabbing my phone. I just remember calling my mom. She picked up on the second ring. "Hello," she said half asleep. "Normal." "Mom?" My voice was shaking. I think I just had a nightmare. Silence. Not the kind where someone's thinking, the kind where someone is listening. "Mom?" A soft breath cackled through the speaker, then very quietly, "I'm inside." The whisper wasn't tired, it wasn't confused, it sounded too close, right next to me. And then it laughed. Not loud, not sharp, a thin, careful laugh. Like it was trying to not wake someone up. The call ended. The house was completely silent. No footsteps, no doors opening, no breathing, nothing. That's what scares me the most. Because my grandmother didn't just say, "Don't look." She said, "Looking is the same as opening the door." And I looked. And that concludes tonight's episode of After Midnight Stories. I hope I didn't scare you too bad, and I hope you don't have to get out of bed. And I really hope if you hear someone outside, you don't look. If you or anyone you know has a story that you want to share, feel free to DM or email me.
I'm gonna do a little ghost story and yap today. I have had one crazy paranormal experience in my lifetime that I truly cannot explain, but I just think it's really interesting. I've talked to so many of my friends about it, and everybody kind of looks at me sideways because it does sound absolutely insane. But my boyfriend was there to witness it with me. We talk about it all the time. We truly don't know how this could have happened or how it could be explained. I was supposed to move to Scotland for grad school in like 2022, I think is when this happened. For COVID reasons and other housing reasons, I had to come back and do my first semester here. I needed a sublet, so I needed somewhere to stay for just like 6 months. Luckily enough, I knew somebody that needed to find a subletter. I was chomping at the bit to find somewhere, and I just said yes to this because I knew the person and it seemed like a perfect fit. It was definitely like an older home. I never did any specific research to find out exactly how old the house was. You know, probably like 1850 to 1920 range, something like that. 1850 feels a little early actually, but whatever. Also, this was a lovely place. My roommate was great. It has 2 large bedrooms. Obviously one of them I'm occupying, and you know, I'm only there for like 6 months, or planning to only be there for 6 months. So I didn't bring a lot of furniture with me. I just got this little like rinky-dink mirror that goes over the back of the door frame, like from Target or IKEA, that have like the hooks that go over the top of the door. And you can like close the door and it'll stay. The other thing is that when I moved in, I found another vintage mirror on Facebook Marketplace. But anyway, this room, the way that this room was set up, there were basically like 2 closets on either side of the room. One of the closets I used for my clothes, so I had all my clothes in there, shoes, stuff like that. The other closet, again, I was kind of packing pretty light. I didn't have a ton of stuff. I think I had like my suitcase in there, and it was literally just the suitcase. The suitcase was empty, by the way. There was nothing else in that closet. So if you're keeping track, there are technically 2 closets, each with a mirror. But one of them is in the back of my closet and one of them is like attached to the outside of the door. But I suppose there's a way for them to be in communication. 4 or 5 months into the lease, my boyfriend and I are laying in bed, facing the same direction, and we're facing the closet that is empty with the suitcase and has the mirror facing us attached to the back of the door. Correct. The other closet is behind us, we can't see it, and it's presumably door closed. Also, my clothes were covering up the mirror. Anyway, so we're laying there, drifting off to sleep, and I like open my eyes to get up and go to the bathroom one last time because I'm a late night peer. And I shit you not, the door's like this, the mirror's like this, parallel to the floor. The mirror wasn't like swinging up as I saw it. I looked up and it was already like this. And I like grabbed Joey behind me, and as soon as we both looked up, it fell back down. So it was just like waiting. Immediately, we're like, yeah, maybe we should go stay at his place tonight. We get the hell out of there. But I still, to this day, cannot figure out how, like physically, like the physics behind how that could have even happened. We had an upstairs neighbor. If somebody like fell onto the floor and caused a ruckus, I guess it could have shaken the door. It really felt as if somebody picked up the bottom of the mirror and like pulled it so that it was parallel to the floor, and then as soon as we saw it, dropped it, because it like crashed into the door and kind of did like this. I promise you I'm not lying. I'm not lying. I still don't understand it. So if anything like that has ever happened to you or a friend, please provide whatever insights you might have. It's been like 5 years and I'm still absolutely clueless. I've been in Reddit threads. I've been in, you know, fucking TikTok comments trying to figure out if anybody has experienced something like this before. Yeah, sit with that. I have for a while.
There are places where you wouldn't catch me outside after dark. The Appalachian Mountains is definitely one of those places. Now, this place is very much alive. Everything out there is trying to lure you in. The old timers, they have a set of rules. If you hear something, you didn't. If you see something, you didn't. You always close and lock your windows at night. You put down the blinds and you wait until morning before you go outside. Because what's out there could come inside. Now, there was this man named David. David and his family got this land lease down in North Carolina. And his plan was to spend a few days going mushroom hunting with his family. So him, his wife, and his son, they set off on an 800-mile road trip. And they find themselves deep in the Appalachian Mountains. So the first night, they get there and they set up their campsite. Instantly, David began to feel uneasy. He felt like he wasn't welcome. And he decided, though, because they had paid so much money, that they would just rough it out. So that night, him and his family, they go to bed in the tent. And after about midnight, David wakes up. And he has this bad feeling in the pit of his stomach. When he looks over, he discovers his son is gone. And the door to the tent is unzipped. So he instantly runs out of the tent. And he starts yelling his son's name. And then he sees his son. He's over by the wood line, near some trees. So he runs over to him and he grabs him and he goes, you know, what are you doing out of the tent? This like it's not safe. And his son just looked at him and then pointed in that direction. And as David turns his head and he looks, said he sees this tall looking creature duck behind a tree. And so he grabs his son and he says, get in the tent right now. So he goes in there with him, and all night he stays up. He's scared. He didn't know what that thing was, but he knew it was trying to get his son. So finally the morning comes, and he tells his wife, I don't think we're safe here. We need to leave. So she agrees that they pack up their things and they get in the car and they head out. When they get everything packed up and they get in their car, he tries to start the vehicle, but it will not start. He didn't have a cell phone. He knew that they were pretty far away from civilization. So at this time, he had no idea what they should do. So after talking with his wife, he decides, we'll stay in the car a couple nights and see if anybody happens to come down the road and we can flag them down. So that night it starts to get dark. And this fear sets over David because he kind of knows there's something in these woods. And he feels.
I got an email from this girl who either thinks there was a mimic or a skinwalker pretending to be her husband. Hi, my name is Carrie, and I am a paranormal investigator and a paranormal podcaster, and I love anything and everything paranormal. So this story comes from a girl. She wants to remain anonymous. The story takes place in 2024 in Southern Oregon, close to the coast, but not considered the coast. She wanted to stay anonymous and keep the town anonymous as well for safety reasons. I must say also, I have heard some pretty scary things about the woods in Oregon. I feel like it's kind of like the Appalachian Mountains, especially with all of the Bigfoot sightings too. She said that this town that she lives in is the reason for the scary things that have happened. So I'm assuming it's haunted. She didn't want to tell me which town, and that's okay. So a little backstory on the property. This property, she is staying in a camper trailer at, and it's her friend's property. But she used to hang out there as a child. She said that her and her brother one time seen dead bodies hanging in the trees, like as ghosts. So she thinks that the ghosts wanted them to see them hanging there for some reason, maybe to find out what had happened to them. So fast forward, now she's living there in a camper trailer on her friend's property that is said to be haunted. The dead bodies swinging in the trees thing totally reminds me of The Conjuring, by the way. So here in this exact spot where she saw the dead bodies hanging is where her camper trailer sits. So Annie was home alone one morning, early morning. Her husband left about 4 a.m. He usually often left between midnight and 4 a.m. This particular morning, he left at 4 a.m. And he would be gone all day and not come back till usually 8 p.m. at night. So around 4:30 a.m., she hears a knock on the door and her husband's voice saying, "Hey, love, could you let me in?" So this is a total red flag considering he just left 30 minutes before this and it's his own house. Shouldn't he have a key? So her instincts tell her to look out the window and not answer the door. And she looks out the window and what does she see? She sees nothing. She sees nobody at the front door and she does not see her husband's truck either. So she tries not to make a big deal out of it, which is probably the smart thing to do. I'd be freaking out though. So she just forgets about it. 2 more weeks go by and the same thing happens again. This time, her husband messages her around 1 o'clock and is telling her I'm gonna be home till like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. So 2 hours goes by and it's 3:30 now, and this time she hears a loud bang on the door and her husband's voice again saying, "Hey honey, let me in, my hands are full." Of course, she's like, "Oh, what the hell no, like he just texted me saying he's not gonna be home till later." So because of what happened a few weeks earlier, she goes ahead and sends her husband a text message, and then he gives her a call back saying, "No, I'm at work." Now this is so scary because I had this same thing happen to me when I lived in Virginia City, which is a really haunted old ghost town. And this happened in my house that we had demons in. It was infested with demons. And I used to hear my mom's voice from upstairs telling me to come up there. So good thing she's a smart girl and she didn't answer the door, because who knows what would have happened to her. She wants to know what you guys think. Do you guys think that this was a mimic? Do you guys think this was a skinwalker? Let her know in the comments. And if you have a paranormal scary story, please email it to me if you would like to share. And if you want to remain anonymous, that's fine. Just let me know in the email. My email is blackveilparanormalteam@gmail.com.
Tonight's story is extra scary, so I decided to wear my PJs so I could have just a little bit of comfort. So with that being said, grab your favorite tea and settle in, and let me tell you another scary story about Appalachia, because of course, this is Tea After Midnight. As always, so good. This story was sent to me by Anonymous. I've lived in the Appalachian Mountains my whole life, and about a year ago, me and my friend, who I'll call E, saw something neither her nor I can explain. She had slept over at my house after school because her and my parents were hanging out at her house until late. We always loved going on walks late at night. So like usual, me and her had put on our shoes and left the house at around 10 p.m. To paint a picture, I live about 10 minutes from any other houses, and woods surround most of my house. There's a long trail we walk on that's very beautiful during the day, but at night you can't see much because the trees block almost any light that can get in. The second I closed my back door, I felt this sense of unease that I've never felt before. But E seemed perfectly fine. Like usual, we walked to the start of the trail, and we're about 5 minutes into our walk when I hear something following us in the trees to my left. It was big with heavy steps, walking in a way like it was trying to be quiet, but couldn't. I look over at E, and she had this horrified look on her face that made my stomach drop. She was the only one with a flashlight, so she pointed it into the trees, and we saw nothing. We instantly turn around to walk back to my house because we've seen the horror movies and know Appalachia's rules. E and I started walking, and the steps in the trees kept up with our pace, following us from a distance. We start sprinting back to my house, and I was so horrified, all I could hear was my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I was ahead of E by a few feet, but eventually she caught up to me. When I looked over at her in the woods, I saw this tall, slender thing about 15 feet away from E, running. Once her and I made it home, we locked the door, shut all the blinds, and instantly started hysterically crying. We sat together for about an hour in the corner of my living room, not saying a word, until I picked up the courage to crawl up to the window and peep out at the backyard. There was absolutely nothing. Once I told E this, she slowly started calming down and told me what she saw. She said when we were running, she looked to her left and saw this tall, black, extremely skinny figure with a long head running directly next to her. E and I never went to sleep that night. We stayed up in my bed all night with every light on in the house. I haven't shared this story with anyone but my mother and father in fear that people will call me crazy. E did the same and feels the same way. Since that incident, I've refused to go anywhere near the trails and only leave my house when necessary. There is another part to this story. I'm writing a follow-up to my story because last night I saw it again. Last night at around 2 a.m., I went downstairs to grab a snack like I usually do. My downstairs layout is when you walk down the steps, to your right is my living room and kitchen, and there are windows everywhere. Ever since the incident, my parents bought blackout curtains for every window that lines the walls to the backyard. There's a big glass door that usually has blinds to cover it too, but last night it wasn't shut. I went to the kitchen absolutely oblivious to the door because I was on my phone, but when I was passing it, I heard something scream in the woods. I froze, paralyzed with fear, and when I looked out the window, I saw it again. About 20 feet away in the woods, standing halfway behind a tree next to the trail. But this time, I noticed a malicious smile it had on its head where a face should be. I couldn't move. All I could do was stand there until a few seconds later when I instinctively fell to the ground and crawled into a corner of my kitchen. I screamed for my parents and my mother came running down the hall with my father barreling down behind her. I tried to explain, but with my crying, I could only get out the words, "He's back." My father instantly understood and went out into the backyard. He came back about a minute later, claiming he saw nothing. I'm not even sure if I want to be writing this right now. I feel like I spoke it back into existence sending the last email. The only times I've seen it were yesterday and a year ago when it all started. I cannot get its smile out of my head. I genuinely couldn't imagine seeing something like that once, but let alone twice. As soon as I read the description of what they saw, my mind immediately went to the rake. I am going to put a picture in here just for reference, so if you don't want to see that, scroll away now. But this is what my mind immediately went to when I read the description of what they saw. If this is truly what they saw, I would be absolutely terrified. Oh, but don't forget it came back a second time, and that time it was smiling at them through the window. I am absolutely terrified, and I genuinely couldn't imagine seeing that. But that does conclude this episode of Tea After Midnight. If you have any personal scary stories you want to share, I would love to read them, and they do not have to be about the Appalachian Mountains. It can be about any scary story that you've experienced. You can email me at this email on the screen or the email that's going to be in the caption of this video. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have the best night, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
So listen to me.
This woman DM'd me and she's 100% sure that she is experiencing a paranormal activity. So she wanted me to share this so that you can tell her what she should do about it. Welcome to Horror Hive. I'm mad. This is not my story, but I encourage people to send in their strange and unusual stories to this email right here. So this one is a short one, but the evidence is undeniable. So this woman lives alone with her husband. They live in an apartment. She had never experienced any kind of paranormal activity before, but they moved into this apartment fairly recently, like a few months ago. Things have been normal up until this point, which this only happened about 2 weeks ago. She said her and her husband were home one evening, both of them after work, relaxing. They decided that they want to do a puzzle. The puzzle was brand new. They bought it from Barnes & Nobles. It's a fairly big puzzle, so they are doing it and they only get part way through and then they decide to go to bed. It's like a big puzzle. She said it was a 500-piece puzzle. I've never done a 500-piece puzzle, but that's huge. For most people, too much to do in one night. So they didn't. They did part of it. They left it on their table so that they could revisit it another day. She said that they love puzzles. They do this often, and that evening they were able to get through about 45% of the puzzle, which is a lot. So they were very proud of themselves. They're very excited to continue this puzzle. They go to bed. The next day, they're kind of busy. They don't end up doing anything with the puzzle for about 2 days. But then the day after that, they do end up doing some of the puzzle and they get through quite a bit of it. She says that they left the puzzle on probably like 75% done. They're mostly done with this puzzle. They're happy with it. They go to bed. The next day, she wakes up. She comes out into the living room to do her regular routine. The puzzle is completely destroyed. The puzzle is completely undone. There's 75% progress is no more. There is just all the puzzle pieces laying on the table where they had left it, but all of the pieces are completely separate. Not one puzzle is interlocked to another. She is shocked and she is pissed because the first thing that comes to her mind is that maybe her husband did this. She said that she doesn't know him for doing things like this, but it was kind of like, well, who else did it? Nobody lives here but us. Her husband is adamant about the fact that he did not do that. He also showed a lot of emotions towards the fact that this had been done. They want to entertain the fact that maybe somebody came in and did this, but they're like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, if someone were to break into our house, they would rob us. Like, why would they just undo a puzzle? They don't have any pets that could have done this. They don't have people who frequently visit their home or would have had a key or just would have walked in, or just nobody could have done this to their knowledge. This sucks, but they have to go about their lives. It's kind of a rift between them because they're both kind of secretly thinking like the other one did it. A couple of nights go by. There was one particular night that she says that she felt very uneasy. She couldn't sleep. She was laying in bed with her husband. Her husband was asleep beside her. She was up for hours. And she said this is not uncommon for her. There's just sometimes that she has trouble sleeping. This was one of those nights she probably got into bed at 11 o'clock but didn't actually fall asleep until about 4 a.m. And then she had to wake up at 6 a.m. for work. So she does that. She gets up. She goes to the living room. Same routine, but this time the puzzle that they had never cleaned up was completely done. Someone had finished the 500-piece puzzle. At this point, she loses it. She calls her husband into the room. She shows him this. And now they're really like beside themselves because she knows that he did not do this. He was in bed all night. The only time that he would have maybe not been in bed was the 2 hours that she was asleep, but 2 hours would not have been enough for him to sit there and finish a 500-piece puzzle. On top of the fact, why would he even want to? They're scared, they're confused. They actually go and check the whole house for any way that anybody could have broken in. But even still, that's weird to them because it's just like, even if somebody could, she was awake most of the night. She would have heard someone. And even if someone could, why would they come in and finish a puzzle? How could they physically finish a puzzle that's 500 pieces in 2 hours? Just nothing is adding up. That is why she sent this in. So go to the comments below and tell me what you think about this. Who could have done it? Why? And also, if you have a strange story of your own, you can send it to this email. And consider following because I post scary stories every day.
I don't know how people have the courage to live in the Appalachian Mountains, but I will never. Anytime I see a video about the Appalachian Mountains, whenever I go to sleep, this shit always pops up in my dreams. That's how I know that shit is evil. I just saw a video of a lady that lives in the Appalachian Mountains. Her and her daughter were scared out of their minds. Now, mind you, her daughter is downstairs by herself. She keeps hearing a voice scream her name. Now, and if you know anything about the Appalachian Mountains, you know when you hear a voice, if you hear a voice, you are not supposed to answer that voice. If you were inside and you hear that voice, you are not supposed to open your door to that voice. So the voice keeps on screaming. Then the voice changes into the girl's father's voice. Now you just hear what I just said, right? The voice she heard was her father's voice. She ran upstairs and told her mom. Her mom, panicking, calls the father on the phone. She's on the phone with the father. While she's on the phone with the father, she hears the same exact voice. And then out of nowhere, she heard footsteps coming up her stairs. running up her stairs. So the father, who's on the phone, is like, yo, listen, I'm on my way home. Stay in the room. Do not come out the room. This lady recorded this video where something was banging on the door. Banging. When I say banging, I mean banging. Boom, 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 boom on the door. I might have to start a series on this shit because this shit is the scariest shit I could have ever seen. These Appalachian Mountain stories are the scariest stories I could have ever heard. I don't understand why people live there. I don't understand how people live there. But I would never. I'm out.
If you live in the Appalachian area, this is the reason that you have curtains and blinds on your windows and you keep them closed at night. This woman lived in a small town in Virginia in the Appalachian Mountains. She heard knocking on her window and she saw this thing peeking through her window. She got her phone out to record and it just kept looking at her. Now, at one point in the video, she actually starts screaming to try to scare it away so she can go close her blinds. Right here, you can see its teeth. Its teeth. And then it closes its mouth, and you can see how its mouth doesn't fully close. It's just like a black void. And it has hollowed eyes and red skin. Now, the woman said she lives close to the coal mines, and she thinks this thing crawled up out of them. And from the looks of it, I would too. That is freaking terrifying. And it's watching you through your windows. She had just moved to the area, so she didn't know the rules of living in the Appalachian Mountains. So this is a clear warning. If you move to the area, make sure you close your blinds and windows and lock your doors at nighttime. And if something like this comes knocking on your windows and doors, don't pay it no mind. Act like it doesn't exist, and it should go away, hopefully. What do y'all think about this? Let me know.
Someone in the Appalachian Mountains captured a video that has people completely unsettled. At first glance, the figure in the distance looks like a bird, almost like a crow, standing near the tree line. But as the camera slowly zooms in, something feels very wrong. The figure isn't hopping, it isn't flying. It's walking upright, like a human. And if you look closely at its feet, they don't look like claws. They look disturbingly human. The entire body is pitch black, tall and thin, and it appears to be holding some kind of curved object. Many say it looks like a scythe. After the video was posted, the comments exploded. Some believe it's a symbol of death. Others say it could be one of the unknown entities, long rumored to exist in the Appalachians. But the most unsettling part is what the person filming said afterward. The moment they realized it wasn't a bird, the figure seemed to be watching them too. So what do you think? Just a strange illusion, or something that was never meant to be seen?